And our last presentation of this session is David. He was part of the virtual healthcare Triage that won the TADHack New York Prize. Was built on Cisco Spark and also, Vox Implant as well. So I think you won 2 prizes. I let that one pass because normally we tried to keep it to 1 prize, but because the hack was so good, we gave you a special exception there, David. So over to you.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here, and definitely it's great to represent my team about the hack that we did in New York a month ago. My name is David Alfaro. I am from Costa Rica. Yeah, we like piñas coladas and getting caught in the rain. I am co-founder and witch doctor for WebRTC Ventures. We specialize in doing telemedicine and teleeducation applications using WebRTC in particular. So let's get into it. There is a study from the University of California, San Francisco, and Stanford that estimates that 40 to 50% of primary care visits could be converted to virtual appointments, leading to savings of $11 billion in United States alone. That's an impressive number. We are talking about the ability of triaging what would have been visits to an office. We are talking about converting that into a lower cost setting using video calls and phone calls and SMSs. The hack that we built triage patients through 4 levels, and I'm going to explain those before I show how we implemented this. The first level goes via the interaction to or with a chatbot. So what we used was this chatbot or technology called API.ai, and we implemented interaction in there, and then we put a middleware that would connect to Facebook Messenger and Vox Phone. So what we could use is seamlessly interact between Facebook Messenger, and if for some reason we lose the connection, the internet connection, which is something that happens commonly in Costa Rica, then I can continue the conversation via SMS using Vox Phone, keeping the context of the conversation. And that's a very important topic in our company, contextual communications. I'm going to talk more about that in the afternoon. So that's the first level, when I interact via text with the chatbot. Now, it could be that the chatbot recognizes its limits and thinks or recommends that the best escalating step is to have a conversation, a phone call conversation with a doctor, and that's going to be the second level of triaging. Now, when that conversation happens, the doctor that is having this conversation may suggest that the next escalating level should be, let's have a video call that can be done using a desktop or a mobile. Now, it could be that in that live video session, the doctor can recommend, well, the situation that you have is better to be handled in person. So let's go ahead and coordinate a visit. So we can do that as well into the system that we've built. So let me explain again the architecture that we have here, or the decisions that we are making here. We have a segment of the market, or an important persona here, which is the patient, is going to interact first using Facebook Messenger. We put in the middle of the process something that we are calling a context-aware middleware. So before we reach the API.ai, which handles all the responses, what we're going to do is create a context that we're going to keep in a database. So when we have to switch to another medium of communication like SMS, which is allowed by Tropo, we could keep having the conversation, picking up where we left it when we have to switch to SMS. Now, by the time that we have to escalate this, to have a conversation with the doctor is going to have access to this context. So when I mention context, the best way, or maybe the other word or the other term that we can use to refer to it is the medical file of this person being the chat part of it, the conversation that the person is having being part of that file. Then when we have the next escalating process, which is a phone call, we are going to use box implant. In this particular way, what we're going to do is that doctor is going to be able to have this conversation using his laptop, while the user can have this conversation via the phone. Why? Because that's the scenario. He went from Facebook Messenger to SMS because he loves the connection. Now using SMS, he was able to make an appointment, then he was able to make the phone call. Now the next appointment opportunity is when the patient is going to do a video session, a live session with the doctor, and for that also we are going to use Vox implant for that, using the WebRTC capabilities that we can have in Vox implant. Now, what I'm going to do next is showing you live a video of a live behavior of this. Let me see. There you go. So this is the first level, the interaction that we're going to have using Facebook Messenger. And this conversation is being handled by API.ai. In this case, the patient is trying to explain what are the symptoms that he's having. But during this moment, because we are in Costa Rica, he lost internet connection. Very soon, that's going to happen, and somehow we have to keep the context so he can move it to other place. I lost it here, so I know where to. As a Costa Rican now, I have the phone number that I can keep using to keep having the conversation. I send a notification that the bot is going to recognize that, and then keeps asking the questions that were left hanging in Facebook Messenger. So still, we are in the first level of a triaging process, where the chatbot it's trying to handle the situation as in the best way it can. At some point soon, the chatbot is going to recognize, well, this conversation we better escalate it to a doctor. Then I just make the call, and here I'm using Vox implant to have the call. The conversation happens. You can imagine that. And the next step, while they are having this conversation, is I'm going to show you now the next. It's when the doctor recommended, well, what you have to do is actually make an appointment with a doctor. Now, this appointment is a virtual appointment. So what the bot is going to present to the user are the possibilities for the time slots the patient can choose from. The patient chooses one, and fantastic. Now he's able to wait until the the appointment time comes. And then when that happens, the patient goes to a website. There you go. Where he can log in, and once he's inside, the context is maintained in there. He starts the conversation, the patient is there. He didn't have time to brush his hair, but
that's how he always looks.
yeah, it's a health issue. And then the doctor says hi. In that way, it could be also that in that moment the doctor says, well, maybe we have to escalate this to the next level where you have to pay a visit to a real doctor. But the point is during or through these processes, a lot of patients and a lot of situations can be successfully handled before escalating to the next level. And that's the savings that we're talking about. And that's about it.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Do we have any questions from the audience for David? I know we're coming up on time. Claude. Thank you.
I would like to ask 2 questions about the business model. First, the business model for you and also for the doctors. Because when I call my doctor and try to obtain a solution by the phone, he said to me, come to the office, I will see you, because he want to let me pay something for the visit. So how do you find the solution for you and for the doctors? Please.
That's a fantastic question because it relates exactly to the situation of contextual communications as the power of WebRTC. The benefit that we have now with WebRTC is that I can create an application using that as a feature. So that means that I have control of the context. That means that if I am having this conversation via WebRTC in my phone or a web browser, I already have in control of how many minutes have been spending in that call. And because that is happening between the context of a profile, because I had to be registered into this service, that means that I can be able to charge for that exactly, because I am inside the context of the triaging service. That's the beauty of the process. I don't know if that's part of the question. Okay.
On the contrary, the patient could say, okay, I will be billed, but if I pay more than for a visit, I prefer a visit.
Yeah. And precisely, the idea of having the triaging model is that the patient can choose where to start with. Right. You say, well, maybe it's not serious. Let's see how serious it is, and I will decide if I escalate it or not.
Yeah. So if you have a national health scheme, they could see this as a way of enabling doctors' time to be used more efficiently. Of course, in North America, they have something far more naive than this. But again, they want to avoid spending money. So they want to avoid the doctor's visit. So there's a whole range of different countries and scenarios where this could be applied. So again, David, that was excellent. Thank you so much for your time. And again, a round of applause, please.